Before anyone remembers your name, your work has already begun. You wake before dawn in Old Kingdom Memphis, with cedar smoke lingering in your room, your linen sheet damp at the chest. Beside your mat lie bandage rolls, a copper blade, and polished wooden splints. You are a physician, and by nightfall your hands will carry another household's fear. The single sandal on stone from an early walker taps along the lane. Mudbrick walls still hold the night cool. Beyond them, Memphis waits between river and necropolis, between kitchens, workshops, shrines, and the broad compounds of officials who can summon you with one anxious servant. You cross a courtyard where dung fires from breakfast hearths breathe up in thin gray threads. Geese mutter near a reed pen. A girl rinses jars at a basin. On a low shelf rest alabaster ointment jars, packets of natron, and a folded strip of fine linen kept clean for wounds. At the doorway, the cold of pre-dawn wind brushes your bare forearms before the sun takes it away. You tie your kilt tighter and lift your satchel. Inside it sit rolls of linen, honey sealed in a small pot, willow slats, a reed pen, and fresh grease for softening wraps. Your first task is simple and ordinary. You grind dried herbs on a stone pallet, mix grease with honey, and inspect the edges of yesterday's bandages. Patients come with cough, swelling, rotten teeth, and cuts from copper tools. A broken limb changes the pace of the whole day. The scribes read scratches behind you, while a household servant gives names. An old porter with a swollen ankle waits on a stool. A child with inflamed eyes leans against his mother. You wash your hands from a pottery jar, murmur to keep stillness in the room, and begin with the least urgent. A faint smell of copper rises when you lay out your blade and probe on a cloth. You lance a boil, drain it, and seal the place with linen. Then you press an aching jaw, check a fevered forehead, and bind a cut hand, made raw by hauling limestone blocks. By the time light fully fills the courtyard, frankincense drifts from a nearby shrine where a doorkeeper has fed the brazier. You pause, touch your fingers to your chest, and speak low to Sekhmet the Mighty, asking that your hands stay steady and your judgment clear before the next summons arrives. Fear comes quietly. The empty grain jar sits in the corner of your own house often enough to stay in your thoughts. Payment can be bread, onions, beer, or a promise from a steward who thinks promises nourish children. Skill matters. So does whether powerful households speak your name with respect. Then a messenger appears, breath rough, dust clinging to his shins. His master's son has fallen from a cart near the quay. The arm hangs wrongly. The father demands haste. You know what such demands mean. If the limb withers crooked, blame follows the healer into every market lane. As you walk, the river's slow current glints beyond storehouses and moored boats, calm beside the hurry in your chest. Porters shoulder sacks of grain, donkeys stamp of flies. Above the roofs, the white brightness grows hard. Heat soon will press down on skin, cloth, breath, and temper. Another fear waits sharper than hunger, the unanswered name. A patient may weaken in the night, and a servant may stand at your threshold before sunrise, asking why your remedy failed. You have seen grief turn its face toward the nearest living man. Often, that man has been you. The servant leads you through a broad gate into an official's house. Date palms throw strips of shade across the floor. Women crowd the wall, bracelets still, mouths tight. On a stool sits the injured boy, old enough to grit his teeth, young enough to tremble when he sees your satchel opened. Wet wool from a cooling cloth laid on his brow carries a sour, damp smell beneath the sweetness of date cakes left untouched. His forearm bows where no forearm should bow. You kneel, so your face meets his. You ask where pain bites deepest. He answers by breathing too fast. You place your fingertips along the bone, gentle at first, then firmer. The mother flinches before he does. Swelling gathers under the skin. No wound breaks the flesh. Good. A closed break grants more hope. You ask for 2 straight wooden slats, clean linen, fresh water, and more hands. The priest's chant from a neighboring chapel reaches the courtyard in a thin thread. As the family obeys, you hear the names of the gods beneath the rustle of sandals and cloth. The father stands rigid by a column. His silence bears weight enough to bend weaker hands than yours. Flies gather as the heat climbs. You have no room now for haste. One servant braces the boy's shoulder. Another grips his wrist under your command. You cup the broken arm, feel the grating wrongness beneath the skin, then begin the long, careful pull that asks bone to remember its place. The bite of leather thongs around the splints tests your fingers as you fasten them snug, then ease them back half a breath so blood may still move. The boy cries out once, sharply, then only shudders. Sweat slips down your nose. You keep your mouth flat and your shoulders still. Honey and grease shine on the linen as you smooth each wrap in crossing turns from wrist to above the elbow. You tuck padding where swelling will rise. The mother watches every fold. So does the father. In that ring of eyes, your hands speak more loudly than any charm. When the arm is fixed, you bind it against the chest with a broad sling. Then you tell them the rules that matter. No lifting jars, no rough play, no sleeping on that side. Change the outer linen if it soils. Send for you if fingers darken, numb, or swell too hot. By late afternoon, the house exhales. Bread appears. Beer is poured. A servant places onions, cucumbers, and a little dried fish before you on a low tray. Your stomach answers before dignity does. The boy sits pale and exhausted, arm cradled high, looking at you with mistrust already softening. You wash in a basin while tallow lamps are prepared, though the sun still lingers. Dust streaks from your wrists and gathers in the water. The father finally speaks. He thanks you without warmth, then orders a sack of emmer flour and a jug of beer sent to your house at dusk. On the walk home, jasmine from a garden wall reaches you just above the smell of hot mudbrick. Memphis lowers its voice. Potters stack their wares. Boatmen call less often. In the west, the necropolis ridges fade to violet. You feel each step in your back and knees. Night settles. You sit on your mat with coarse bread, beer, and a few dates while the room cools at last. Beside your knee rests one unused splint. You turn it in your hand and think of that crooked arm forced straight beneath watching eyes. Which detail would have broken you first?